In this series, we've talked about some of the very best Star Wars games ever made. Shadows of the Empire, LEGO Star Wars Squadrons. We've talked about a whole bunch, but we've never talked about the very best. And that changes today. Yes, today we talk about the very best Star Wars game ever conceived. A game so good, not only did it inspire a generation of gamers to pick up a controller, but also happens to be one of the finest console exclusives of all time. Of course, there could only be one game I'm talking about. Super Bombad Racing. Hey, how's it going, guys? This is Tom from UDS, and although I might be having a little bit of April Fool's fun, I'm not kidding around when I say that this is a genuinely great game. But before I get into why this little-known PS2 title is a hidden gem, don't forget to subscribe for more videos about games new and old every single week. Just pretend the sub button is Jar Jar's head and the mouse cursor is a hammer. I'll let you work out the rest. The late 90s and early 2000s were a great time to be a fan of Star Wars and video games. To my count, there was at least 8 different home console games based on the Phantom Menace alone, not to mention pinball machines and arcade cabinets that were just so damn cool. You often still see them knocking about today. Within this veritable smorgasbord of choice, you had action platformers, flight sims and puzzle games, as well as 2 very different styles of racing titles. Now, we've already covered episode 1 Racer on the channel, where we revealed why it was much more than just a clone of Wipeout, and why it still has a cult following that persists to this day. But the other game, 2001 Super Bombad Racing, is much more obscure. Developed by Lucas Learning, a spin-off of LucasArts designed to focus on educational games, it wasn't what you'd call a classroom classic. Instead, it was a kart racer, in the mold of Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing. So yeah, not exactly Yoda's Challenge Activity Center. In fact, it would be the last game the short-lived studio would put out before they shut their doors for good. This is probably a large reason as to why you don't hear much about it anymore, or why we haven't had a re-release on any other platform, but I'll talk more on the untimely fate of Super Bombad Racing in just a bit. As I said at the start, this is a really solid racer, and punches way above its weight in pretty much every category. You only need look at the level design to get a pretty good idea of this. Although 9 tracks might seem pretty quaint by today's standards, it was pretty much on par with most of its contemporaries, and what it might have lacked in quantity, it more than made up for in quality. Each track lovingly recreates a setting from the Phantom Menace, from the rustic streets of Theed to Coruscant's grand skyline. There's a huge variety of scenery, and with lots of diverging paths and shortcuts to discover, there's a real incentive to revisit and master each course. Personally, my favourite level has to be the droid control ship, which serves as the incredibly challenging final circuit. If anyone writes this off as just a kid's game, just show them this level. It takes laser focus and real concentration to traverse, and it can become super addictive trying to top the podium. That's why it's a good job that, for the most part, the controls are tight and responsive. Those of you who have been with the channel for a while will remember that I recently talked about Muppet Race Mania, a kart racer released around the same time, but while Race Mania felt like controlling a bar of soap, Super Bombad Racing feels much more like you're at the helm of an actual speeder, albeit one roughly the same size as your own head. But as with most kart racers, it isn't just a case of being the fastest. You also have an arsenal of weapons and power-ups at your disposal to help give you the edge. Items like force field gadgets, photon blasts, tractor beams, and energy balls all feel true to the wider universe. There's even a cheat code that lets you turn every weapon into the Death Star, which is pretty cool. But they all pale in comparison to the turbo boost. If you're looking to finish ahead of your opponents, this is what you'll want to grab. There is another cheat code that gives everyone unlimited boost, which I did use to unlock all 9 tracks faster, but it does mean everything turns really chaotic really fast, so use it sparingly. Alongside the 9 tracks, there's also 4 arenas for combat action. This is pretty much what you'd expect from similar modes in other games, but that doesn't make it any less fun, particularly if you still have a multi-tap for 4-player action. The only thing is, with more happening on screen at any one time, I did find the frame rate stutter quite a bit. Now I'm gonna have to reveal my secrets and say I was playing on an emulator, so I'm not sure if it was that caused it or if it was the game itself, but it's never ideal suffering from some chug in those tense moments. Yet overall, we've established that when it comes to gameplay, Super Bombad Racing exceeds expectations. But this is all more than matched by the aesthetics, which help to elevate the experience to a whole other level. Although the Phantom Menace might be the butt of more than a few jokes, one thing that's widely accepted is that it has a killer musical score, and that translates to this game as well. Fun, almost cartoony reinterpretations of the different tracks helps to add an extra veneer of quality and authenticity to proceedings. It fits the tone of the game perfectly, and will have you whistling along to a whole new version of Duel of the Fates, and honestly we could all do with a little more Duel of the Fates in our lives. The visuals, at least from a technical perspective, are pretty much on par with what you'd expect from similar titles from the time, but arguably the most defining feature of the game is its character design. It's very Marmite, you'll either love it or you hate it. Personally, the bobblehead caricatures are really endearing. Oh, you're not making it easy for me. Particularly when coupled with the off-the-cuff references they make. Darth Maul's arrogant boasting and Jar Jar's Jar Jarness never failed to put a smile on my face. Yes, Jar Jar made me smile, what of it? So yeah, the visuals pretty much work for me. Oh my god, what is that? I take it all back. Bin it. Burn this game to the ground. But if Super Bombad Racing was so good, why isn't it spoken about anymore? In short, it flopped. Poor sales led to proposed Dreamcast and PC ports to be scrapped, and ultimately resulted in Lucas Learning shutting down. This is a real shame, as while this video might have been a bit of an April Fool's goof, I would genuinely play this again before I played Episode 1 Racer. And I love Episode 1 Racer, so that is saying something. Yet, maybe it's only fitting it remained a PS2 exclusive. In the same way Nintendo fans got Mario Kart, and even Dreamcast players got Episode 1 Racer, it's kinda nice that PS2 players had their own kart racer to enjoy. I just wish, as is happening with other Star Wars games from the era, we could get a port for the Nintendo Switch, so a whole new generation of players can experience the bombastic fun of Super Bombad Racing. And that's a wrap on this edition of the best Star Wars video games ever. Do you have fond memories of Super Bombad Racing? Let me know in the comments below, because I would genuinely love to read your thoughts. And while you're there, why not hit subscribe? Because you know, as a small channel, every interaction helps. And hey, maybe you'll even enjoy what you see. Who knows? But most importantly, let me know which Star Wars game to feature next. I promise there won't be any more April Fool's gags from here on in. Nope, nothing but the classics from now on.
Listen, everybody. Hello. 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 Listen, everybody. Hello.